this case that plays out in Ireland, this woman says, I don't have a problem with all Jews. I'm not even saying there's this international network of Jews who work nepotistically to advance Jewish causes. I'm just saying I don't like watching them murder women and children indiscriminately. I don't like them watching children being shot in the back of the head when they're trying to get food. Okay? I don't like seeing people get run over by bulldozers, seeing all of Gaza turned into rubble. I don't like them blockading every entrance to the city and not allowing food, water, and electricity to the citizens who did absolutely nothing wrong. Okay? I don't like seeing these things. She shouldn't have said those things on the internet because Wix found out, they fired her, they destroyed her personal and financial life.
The destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Good afternoon and welcome to Beholding the Truth. It is your humble host, Joshua, here with you for another very fun, casual happy hour session sitting outside of the gym, sipping our pre-workout, getting caffeinated. I'm honestly pretty annoyed. Can we just skip the intro? You guys know what the deal is, okay? We're about to go work out. It's actually even worse. It's going to be a leg day today too. It's just raining shit, okay? Today it's just raining shit on my life. So I'm going to talk to you guys about mine struggle. I woke up today, and this is going to be the topic of this vlog, the ongoing war against anybody who has anything ever critical to say against this foreign nation who calls themselves our greatest ally, or against this religion who has rejected Jesus Christ and believes that Jesus Christ is burning in hell, or against this subversive, nepotistic group of people who believe it's morally righteous to work within their own ethnic group and staunchly beat their chest that they're a group of people by blood who have been chosen by God. Meanwhile, calling white people who believe that we've actually just built some civilizations that we want to keep that are uniquely ours. We like the way we look. We want to marry each other, have children with each other, build communities for ourselves, keep them for ourselves. Well, we're called evil, Nazis, and blah, blah, blah. These people call themselves God's chosen people. And if you dare say anything about how they work together or are self-interested, even at the cost of the nation they live in or other ethnic groups or other religious groups, well, of course, that's evil. And you might as well be invoking genocide. So as I've been running this platform for the last 5 years, I've been fighting these people in all kinds of different ways. Attacks on my professional career, which obviously by extension is my financial health, my actual livelihood, my ability to feed myself, have a roof over my head, clothe myself, save money for a future family, do things like go to the doctor, very basic things that we all take for granted. They're not so happy that I get to do those things, so they've been trying to get me fired from my job, unsuccessfully in the past, successfully recently. They have been actively working to suppress my message on the various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Substack, Twitter, all of the normal ones you would expect. They have been shadow banning me, outright banning me, getting my posts removed. This is just the nature of the beast when it comes to standing up against Israel and against Jewish influence. And I've talked at great length about that. Nick has obviously talked for the last 10 years about this. Many others who have walked this path know the struggle. And that's not even getting into the personal life struggle of getting kicked out of church groups, friends abandoning you, family members turning their back on you, and so on and so forth. Well, what is the latest? What is the latest sacrifice that I have had to endure or annoyance? I woke up this morning only to find that beholdingthetruth.com no longer exists. It's been banned from the internet. Fantastic. That's great, I go through years worth of building a name for myself, stand up a official homepage that can host a merch store to try to offset literally 1/100th of the financial cost of running this platform. I've not made very much money at all when it comes to the merch that I sell on my store. especially relative to the financial cost that it's incurred upon my life to run this platform, including losing my job, including the investment, the capital investment required to run this platform, do the work, invest in the merch, pay for marketing, pay for an employee, all these other things that I've accumulated over the last several years. I build the website to try to house, obviously, the merch store, but also the mission statement, links to my documentaries, a portal to get in touch with me. I invest, I don't even know how many hours designing the website. I invest all these hours designing the merch, working on the back end to integrate an e-commerce store. And with one click of the button from an anonymous person, who knows where, for whatever reason, the whole thing gets nuked. I go this morning to order a coffee mug from my own store, okay? Because I'd like to have a coffee mug. I also would like an insulated thermos, and I designed a couple of these, put them on the merch store last night. Woke up this morning, I was like, all right, let me go ahead and order these things. It's starting to get pretty cold out. It would be nice to have something to put some coffee in. And it'd also be nice to have a mug for my desk when I'm doing, sit at home in the studio recordings. Well, I go to my own store on beholdenthetruth.com and it says, this website no longer exists. Get in touch with wix.com if you're the owner of this website. Well, I'm actually the owner of that website, so that message pertains directly to me. And so I go to Wix, where the website was hosted, and I find out that apparently I violated some kind of terms of service by existing, by selling these products, by linking to my YouTube or Substack or whatever. Who knows? And so we'll get into some of that, some of the details behind these methods of suppression that the average normie simply isn't going to encounter. They don't even have a platform, much less a website, much less selling merch. Maybe they know loosely about censorship and some posts get banned or removed from social media. Maybe they know about shadow banning, where they just downrank you in the algorithm so people don't even find your content. Maybe they know some of that stuff is going on. But the problem of thought police is actually far, far deeper and wider reaching than the average person knows. And I learned all these things long before I was subjected to them. I learned these things through following Nick. Over the last 5 years, he's been doing the work for 10 years, and he talked many, many times, thousands of times, about the difficulties of getting banned from the various social media networks. But beyond that, okay, if you're an entrepreneur and you've chosen that this is how you're going to try to create some kind of income, whether it's your full-time income or a partial income to offset the investments that you're making in the movement. Well, to do those things, you obviously have to have a domain registered and a website host, and you have to create some merch and have that hosted on an e-commerce platform. You have to be able to process payments, whether it's PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, Apple Pay. Going down that list, I listened to Nick slowly have each of those accesses revoked. His website, the domain host, they get complaints about his content. He has to go find a new digital home. The merch store, Shopify, wherever else you're using, they get a complaint. They yank down your e-commerce store. Somebody complains to PayPal, you can no longer get payments through PayPal. You're banned from taking credit cards. In the case of having an app, if they don't like what you're doing with the app or the content that you're putting on there, they go to Apple, they go to Google, and they have your app taken off of the App Store. It's just on and on and on. It's like whack-a-mole. You think you avoided one means of suppression, boom, there you run into another one behind the next door. And so I kind of knew, honestly, that I've said this in interviews before, my website eventually was going to get nuked because it was built on Wix.com. And so for those who don't know, surely it's not a coincidence. You just go to Wikipedia and look it up. Wix.com is an Israeli-based technology company headquartered in Tel Aviv. Oh, okay. One more fact that you might like to know about Wix, like many other technology companies, they are a publicly traded company specifically on the NASDAQ, which is a stock exchange for technology companies, an American stock exchange. So they take investment from American investors on the American Stock Exchange, and they create their company. They offer this service. Hey, we'll help you build your website, host the website, find a domain registrar, help you set up a shop, all this other stuff. But then the moment you have something critical to say about Israel, whether you're an influencer or for whatever other work you do, you have a website, they find out that you are critical of Israel, or maybe even just that you're pro-Palestine. Maybe you're a Christian who says that Judaism, just like paganism, Sikhism, Buddhism, Islam, every other religion, is not valid to you. It is anti-Christian. Whatever it is, if you call out Judaism, if you call out Israel, if you call out Jewish culture, if you happen to be a Wix customer where your website is hosted through them, then guess what? They have the authority to just revoke your website from existence. Even if you've already paid them for the year's subscription, even if you're allegedly protected by the First Amendment here in America, even while they're taking American tax dollars to invest in their company, doesn't matter. They can nuke your website with one press of the button. And even better, they owe you absolutely zero explanation. And I found this out, of course, this morning when it said I violated their terms of service. And so I say, okay, let's contact customer support to get to the bottom of this. How exactly did I violate the customer terms of service? What you have to do is talk to an AI-driven chatbot. So you don't get the privilege of talking directly to a human being. The chatbot can't tell you how or why or in what way you violated the terms of service, just that you violated the terms of service. So I get no explanation. Of course, they also don't tell you, because clearly somebody made this complaint. Some person, probably Jewish, probably some Jewish watchdog group, went and said, hey, Wix, do you guys host this website? If so, there's an anti-Semite selling anti-Semitic merchandise on there, putting out anti-Semitic messages, linking to anti-Semitic content on his YouTube. And of course, with them being an Israeli headquartered company run by Israelis, they're more than happy to oblige that complaint by nuking your entire website, all of the hard work you put into it, despite the fact that you paid them for a year of service, nuking your ability to create revenue and hopefully profits to invest in your own company. All of that is just gone with no explanation offered. So that's pretty frustrating. So I spent the next 4 hours this morning trying to find a new e-commerce platform to host the merch store and obviously the entire website, because the merch store isn't the only thing on the website. As I said, there's links to my documentaries. There's a link to the mission statement of what Beholden to Truth stands for, white identity, Christian culture, fitness lifestyle. There's a lot on the website, more than the merch store. But either way, that's neither here nor there. All of it is gone. And there is no way to migrate all of that to another domain host easily. And I'm not a software developer. I don't know how to just extract the code and just deploy it on a new platform. I certainly can't write the code from scratch. So I spent the next 4 hours this morning trying to find a new domain host and design a new store on a new e-commerce platform. There's probably another several hours worth of integration that I have to do on the back end, but I did get the website functionally operational again, redirected. So beholdentotruth.com is working again. If you had an outage over the last 12 hours, that's why. So you can see the products. The page looks entirely new. I use that as an opportunity to do a little bit of a facial uplift on the website. I got a lot more of that work to do. I mean, it took seriously a week's worth of time, man hours, as far down as determining the size of the fonts, the type of font for each page on the website, how the product cards look, how the main homepage looks, how the checkout page looks. Every single page that comes up as you navigate the website was personalized, customized by me. And so all of that work has to get done again. The new APIs and integrations have to be figured out. So That's some frustrating stuff. What's going on, you guys? It is yours truly, Joshua, founder of Beholden to Truth. Just wanted to say, if you'd like to help out the platform, go to beholdentotruth.com. You can get yourself something from the merch line, some of these anti-Zog occupation sleeveless t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, joggers, sweatshorts, whatever you may need for whatever season you are in. We got them at beholdentotruth.com. It goes a long way in supporting the platform and waking people up. I've had several people come up to me at the gas station, at the gym, at the grocery store. Hey man, I like that shirt. You know what that means. And it kicks off a conversation. We're swapping Instagrams. This is how you meet people who know what's going on, who probably share much of the same worldview that you do. It's an open invitation for everybody to just step right in. So I appreciate you guys' support. Head to beholdentotruth.com and get your own. You know, this is a $1.76 billion company in revenue. Okay? They make over $100 million per year. And they have a problem with me making $500 on the website. This multi-billion-dollar company has to crack down on people making a few $100 selling products that say anti-Zog occupation, or heaven forbid, save Europa. Let's try to not let the white race die out. You know, that's obviously something that is reprehensible to desire. To not have your country occupied by a foreign nation or people who put that foreign nation above your own, or alternatively, the simultaneous priority to, I don't know, not let the white race go extinct. The abhorrent idea that maybe European people should lead European societies, each of the civil institutions inside of them, the government, the education system, the media, the technology industry, you know, the most powerful things that guide this society, the people who print the currency, who control the economy, decide which wars we should participate in. You know, maybe the people who built the country should be the ones making those decisions. And maybe not foreigners, maybe not people who actually have historical grievances against the people who built the country. Maybe people who aren't agnostic or even celebrating and promoting the demise of the people who built the country. Is it really so unreasonable to ask that we have people who love the country, love the ancestors, want to protect their progeny, in control of the country, not being erased from the earth worldwide? Is that so much to ask? Yeah, according to Israel and Jews, yes, it is. It's actually a very hateful message. It's actually so hateful that it could cause a genocide. Me saying, I want to stay alive. I want my fellow white people to stay alive. And I want the civilizations we built to be run by us. Somehow, in some world, that's Nazism. Somehow, in some world, that's the promotion of the genocide of Jews, or the hatred of blacks and other minorities. Somehow, me saying, I want to have a society that is consistent with its historic identity. It was built by European people, for European people. It maintained a population of 90% or more European people for the first 350 of its 400-year existence. Simply pointing these things out is enough to have your website erased from the internet, is enough to get you fired from your job, is enough to say that you are invoking the next Holocaust. Absolute, utter insanity, obviously. Hopefully that's not lost on anybody. But as I said, this is a multi-billion-dollar company who is so insecure, so paranoid, so nepotistic of their own people, so nepotistic of a foreign nation above the nation that they are operating in, from which they are receiving the lion's share of their investment to even exist. The employees that work for Wix would not be getting paid. The physical headquarters, which we will get to, one of them being in Tel Aviv, another one being in Ireland, those physical headquarters wouldn't exist without infusions of capital from Americans derived from the NASDAQ. It being a publicly traded company that takes the money of Americans and invests it in its company so that it can collect that over $100 million of profit per year. How is it that a corporation headquartered in another country can come into America, say, thanks for all the investment, thanks for the $100 million in profit, thanks for helping me fund establishing a headquarters in multiple nations throughout the world, whilst simultaneously trampling the sacred constitution that our country is built upon, the very first clause of which is our freedom of speech, to express criticism of whoever, whatever ethnic group, nation, religion, any grievance we have under the sun, we're allowed to talk about those things. This is very symbolic of the Jewish problem writ large, okay? They want to live in European countries, in particular in America, because America is the most powerful country in the world. We have the most powerful economy, which is what their primary interest is. Secondarily, we have the most powerful military, which they obviously want access to and influence over. We have the most powerful projection of power on the diplomatic stage. People know, because of our marriage, of our greatest alliance, that if they offend Israel, then America will swoop in and give them the money, the tanks, the bombs, standing up in the United Nations, standing up in the world courts for them, refusing or abstaining to vote when it comes to these war crimes that they commit, refusing to condemn their prime minister, refusing to condemn the Knesset when they talk about how all Palestinians aren't even human and we can murder all of the women and children, that we can rape their prisoners, that we can starve them to death. We can't get a condemnation from a single United States governmental official. We can't get a condemnation from anybody of influence in this country, barely even a couple of celebrities. Why? Because they're beholden to Jewish film studios, Jewish talent agencies, Jewish recording studios. And on the governmental side, they're beholden to Jewish lobbyists like AIPAC, like Miriam Adelson, like Bill Ackman, like Mark Zuckerberg, like all these other people who care so much about Jewish protectionism, the nation of Israel, the Jewish religion. They take the money from them, therefore they can never be allowed to say anything critical or even ally with somebody who says something critical with them. People are asking Donald Trump, the president of the most powerful country in the world, to disavow Tucker Carlson, the single most influential conservative talking head in the world, because of Tucker's stance on Israel. Not even on the Jewish religion, not on Jewish influence writ large, that they are a international, self-interested people who are far more devout to their community internationally than anything else in the world. Tucker Carlson didn't say any of that. Tucker Carlson doesn't have a problem with Judaism. He doesn't have a problem with what's written in the Talmud. He doesn't have a problem with the nepotism and the networks that they have built, the hundreds of organizations, political action committees. You have the president of the Heritage Foundation, which is one of the oldest think tanks on the conservative side of the political spectrum, doing a public humiliation ritual routine over the last week, going on platform after platform, making public apologies for saying that he stands for America being a Christian nation, that he's not going to condemn his personal friend Tucker Carlson for expressing his opinions about Israel. He stands behind free speech. He says these venomous people who are asking us to all disavow Tucker Carlson because he has some problems with Israel's influence over America. He has to go recant those statements, get down on his knees, kiss the wall virtually, put on the hat, swear to the Star of David, all of these things in public, humiliating himself, humiliating the entire conservative movement. It's pathetic. Nick has talked about that at great length. I don't feel like doing an episode about that. And so you can go to Wikipedia and you can look at Wix. As I mentioned, they are the domain host, or were the domain host of my website, and see that they are a publicly traded company on NASDAQ, like I mentioned. But what you might also learn about Israeli-based publicly traded companies on NASDAQ is that they're far from the only one. There's actually some odd 80 of them currently on the NASDAQ. And over time, there have been several hundred Israeli-based companies founded in Israel, operating in Israel, collecting the investment of American people, sending it back to Israel, using their technology platforms to better the nation of Israel or Jews internationally. All of this siphoning of resources from American investors, American customers, should be reinvested in the American economy and the protection of America. It's an American stock exchange. It's a company operating in America. It's taking American citizens' money, whether that's through investments in the stock exchange or through buying things from them, from their services. Well, here we are, an American trying to, in good faith, say, hey, I trust you guys to be America first. I'll give you some of my money. Just because you're owned by Jews, I'm not going to stereotype. I think you'll allow me to have free speech on my website that you guys are helping me stand up, right? Nope. Nope. And do you think Wix is unique in that regard? The reason I bring up the fact that there are 70, 80 more companies that are based in Israel on the NASDAQ currently is because they all operate the same way. If they're making semiconductors, if they're making some other form of technology, if they're servers, if they're artificial intelligence, whatever, you know that if for any reason employees internally at that company, people using their products or services, they will be banished. And I can give you evidence of this. As I mentioned before, there is a separate headquarters located in Ireland for Wix. And you can just do a quick Google search. It's also linked in the Wikipedia article for Wix that a couple of years ago, post October 7th, there was an Irish employee working in their Ireland headquarters who had some things to say about how Israel was conducting their response after October 7th. You know, conducting a genocide, murdering children, raping prisoners, starving people to death, carpet bombing the entire city. Well, guess what happened to that employee? She was fired immediately, and internally, Wix distributed messages via the Slack platform to all of their employees who said, what we'd really like you all to do, even if you're not Jewish, even if you're not living in Israel, what we would really like you all to do is take this as a moment of solidarity after we just crucified one of the fellow employees that you used to work with and who you thought was a normal person. You worked with them. You never detected any kind of hatred or bigotry or anti-Semitism from them. Okay, well, we just crucified them and made sure that they can't feed themselves. This person lost their home, by the way. It's documented in the articles if you'd like to read them. They lost their home. They had to go live with their parents. When they finally got a new job, it was making a fraction of what they used to. This is personally relevant to me. I just lost my job for the content of my social media. And when I go out there and I try to apply for all these other jobs, I'm probably going to have to take like a $50,000 pay cut because I previously landed a great job. I went through 10 interviews to get my last job. I'm not exaggerating. 10 interviews over a 7-month period to get this very cushy job. Not a no-show job. It's a very hard job. You have to have 20 years of career experience to get there. Senior leadership. You go through 10 stages of interviews, interviewing at every level of management, all the way up to the chief technical officer of the company. You finally get that. You finally think you're secure. You keep your social media activist political work fully separate. You never mention it in the workplace. Somebody anonymously, in bad faith, sends it to them because they have a personal grievance against me, and I get fired. And that is because of this political correctness stranglehold muzzle that the Jews have created in America. The anti-racism world, the anti-white world that says everybody else is to be celebrated, white people celebrating themselves, awful. Neo-Nazism, white supremacy, bigotry. So in that dynamic that exists all throughout Europe, this case that plays out in Ireland, this woman says, I don't have a problem with all Jews. I'm not even saying there's this international network of Jews who work nepotistically to advance Jewish causes. I'm just saying I don't like watching them murder women and children indiscriminately. I don't like them watching children being shot in the back of the head when they're trying to get food, okay? I don't like seeing people get run over by bulldozers, seeing all of Gaza turned into rubble. I don't like them blockading every entrance to the city and not allowing food, water, and electricity to the citizens who did absolutely nothing wrong, okay? I don't like seeing these things. She shouldn't have said those things on the internet because Wix found out, they fired her, they destroyed her personal and financial life. And how I mentioned before that when Wix comes down, says I ambiguously violated whatever term of service, they don't provide any transparency into who initiated the complaint, how I violated it, how I can fix the situation, anything like that. This was the same thing at my job. They just said, we received some of your social media content. We think it is possible that you being linked to our company could make us look bad, you're fired. And I said, hold on, I protest that decision. I have the right of freedom of speech, and every opinion that I express in my personal private time, not even using my last name, never talking about which company I work for, I can defend all of those messages that I put out there on social media with the biblical backing, with a backing that is morally unimpeachable. And I can point out double standards where the CEO of the company that I was working for is out there using their social media, taking the name as CEO of the company, first and last name there, saying that she's going to use company funds to promote abortion in our country. After Roe v. Wade was overturned, she said, our company is going to pay our employees $4,000 to go and get the women's health care that they need, murder their child in the womb. That's fine. That's not morally questionable. That's not a public brand risk to the company. That's a very clear, specific example of somebody taking the name of the company with their full identity, doing something that is controversial, that millions of Christians in the country would disagree with, and that something is actual calling for murder, and it is taking the money of our customers and the labor of our employees to do so. I can point that out. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You using a racial slur, you saying something misogynistic or anti-Semitic or whatever else, and you're just a cog in the wheel, some random employee in whatever level of management. You're not the CEO. You're not on the board. You're not in the executive leadership team. But still, that could cost us billions and zillions of dollars. So you're fired immediately. No severance pay. We're not even going to tell you what it was that you said that was so offensive. We're not going to debate you. We've already made the decision. It doesn't matter that your boss stands behind you. It doesn't matter that there are absolutely zero complaints in the workplace. This altercation, whatever you want to call it, this social media exposure, the content that they saw, it wasn't shared in the workplace. Nobody in my workplace knew I had a social media because I had no reason to bring it to their attention. None of that matters. In the same way, where Wix can't point to any tangible amount of harm caused by my social media content. They don't even have to point to a piece of my social media content. They don't have to tell me who it was that had a problem with it. They just hit delete. Like you can delete my career, like you can delete my alternative endeavors in my private life or social media life, my political advocacy life. You can just hit one button if you're Jewish, or if you are beholden to Jewish investors, wipe it all out. No explanation required. No debate, no thoughtful exchange of ideas, no empathy. Doesn't matter that you're trying to pay for your home, your food, etc. It's absolutely insane. Like, this world that we live in is so upside down in order to protect the Jews, in order to protect people's feelings about certain subjects, whether it's a gender group, sexual orientation group, a racial or ethnic group, a religious group, whatever it may be. We're so afraid of offending their sensibilities that we will just full nuclear option people's careers and livelihood. Absolutely insane. And so here's like the most important thing that I want to say about this. And this is going back to the exchange we just saw and saw the fallout for over the last week and a half. Nick being interviewed by Tucker, and Tucker pushes back on Nick's alleged anti-Semitism, where Nick points out, you say it's not something about, quote, the Jews, but listen, you say that identity politics is bad and to lump all Jews together is anti-Christian. Those were Tucker Carlson's words. Nick's rebuttal was, okay, but the nation of Israel is an ethno-religious state. It is based on the blood of the people and their religious faith. And Jewish groups working in America, whether it's AIPAC or the Republican Jewish Committee, pick whichever one of the 100 plus Jewish advocacy groups operating in America, they do obviously participate in identity politics, and they do so unabashedly, unapologetically. This very powerful, influential group who have a disproportionate role in all of our civil institutions have no hesitancy whatsoever to leverage identity politics for their agenda, the protection of their people, their nation, their religion. Meanwhile, if you are insinuating, Tucker, that we're supposed to simply opt out and in fact say it is anti-Christian to say that the identity of America is a Christian nation built by European people, but let's continue to allow the Jews. They're not going to listen to you, Tucker. When you sit there and say identity politics is bad, it's not right, it's anti-Christian, guess what? These people aren't Christian. They don't care if you think it's anti-Christian to involve yourself in identity politics. They don't care if you think it's anti-conservatism to collectivize in terms of groups and stereotypes. They genuinely have zero shits whatsoever about what you think about their tactics of coming around Jewish identity, whether it's religious or ethnic or national. And what Tucker provides as an alternative in saying, okay, listen, we can't do the identity politics thing, but what we can do is we can criticize the foreign nation of Israel. And in particular, we can criticize the government's actions of this foreign nation. We can criticize their prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, or we can criticize his political party, the Likud party. Okay, we can say your political policies, your insistence of America helping you militarily, diplomatically, financially. We can push back on those things. But what we can't say is that it is a problem that is broader in scope than the behavior of the government of the foreign nation of Israel. We can't say it has anything to do with Jewish identity or Jews worldwide, international Jewry, because that's anti-Christian. That's group punishment, as Tucker says. Here's the thing. When I just point out the example of what just happened to me, Wix, an Israeli-owned company, destroys my platform, destroys my ability to finance my platform because I am critical of Israel, critical of the Jewish religion. What does that have to do with Benjamin Netanyahu? The people working at Wix, whether they're in Ireland, whether they're in Israel, whether they're working here in America, wherever they are, they made the decision to destroy my work, to try to undermine the financial feasibility of my work. They made that decision. Was that the Likud party, or was that a publicly traded company on an American stock exchange with Jews working internationally, making the decision to shut down any websites that are critical of Israel? Same with the example of the woman in Ireland. Was it Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party who made the decision to terminate an employee of Wix for being critical of Israel? Was it the governmental officials in Israel or the Likud party making the decisions to leak the group text messages of young Republicans to Politico and have all of them fired? Was it the Likud party who went after Paul Ingrassia and made sure he didn't get his position in the office of special counsel under Donald Trump? Is it the Likud party who is constantly coming after Nick Fuentes? Or is it the Anti-Defamation League, Southern Poverty Law Center, Media Matters, Right Wing Watch? Are any of these Israeli-run operations? Are any of these headquartered in Israel? Are any of these related to the Likud party? The ADL and the SPLC and all those are left-leaning outlets. The Likud party, for those who don't know, is a far-right conservative Jewish political platform. None of that has anything to do with Benjamin Netanyahu or the foreign nation of Israel. These are Jews living in America using Jewish advocacy groups headquartered in America to attack Americans, their reputation, their career, their financial livelihood. How do you account for that, Tucker? How do you open up space for me to criticize these people, these groups, these companies, when you say it's actually anti-Semitism to summarize the behavior of Jewish people outside of the governmental officials of Israel? How many different Jewish groups in America, operating in America, targeting Americans, do you need to see violate the First Amendment, violate our right to privacy, violate the sovereignty of our country? Was Jeffrey Epstein living in Tel Aviv? Was Jeffrey Epstein hanging out in Israel? No, he was living and rubbing elbows amongst American elites, international elites as well, but mostly American elites. Hanging out in New York City, Los Angeles, in Florida. Okay? We can do this all day. We can point to Jewish individuals living in America advancing the cause of being Zionist or pro-Israel, or advancing the cause of protecting the bubble of irreproach that is called anti-Semitism. These groups that operate in America targeting Americans on behalf of Jews, no matter where they are, that's not a problem with Benjamin Netanyahu or the Likud party. That's a problem with the self-interest of the Jewish people, wherever they may be, practicing Judaism or not. It's pretty obvious once you've been in the game long enough that this problem is, I would say, 80 to 90% larger than the foreign nation of Israel. Because I don't know how many of you know this, the foreign nation of Israel didn't exist 100 years ago. It was in the works, it was planned, but this problem predates the creation of Zionism in the modern Rothschild-funded Israel. The history of Europe illustrates that. Long before there was a Likud party, long before the reign of Benjamin Netanyahu, you had Jews living in Europe, living in America, subverting the politics, the politicians, the media in each of these countries, and proudly boasting about it. And so it's unclear if Tucker is trying to manage for the time being to not go full nuclear and try to gatekeep the conversation, do a limited hangout and say, all right, before we go full on Germany 1939 or something like that, we need to first say, slowly introduce the people to this problem and say, okay, it's really Israel and it's really just the government of Israel. And maybe as the constellation comes together, as spoken through by people like Nick Fuentes and others, then he will expand his scope in terms of how he portrays the problem to his own audience. Or for the time, he'll let the people who are willing to endure the blowback do the difficult work for him. It's kind of the point of inviting Nick on to do the dirty work. We don't know. He says he doesn't set plays. He says he's not a planner. He doesn't think that far ahead. Hey, I'm just trying to interview people and let them express their free speech. He says he's not doing any of that. I don't really trust that. I think he is smart enough to know that the issue is much broader, and he's basically playing good cop, bad cop. Whether or not he's in their pocket or not, none of us have any idea. But for the time being, he's trying to play the good cop. Nick is playing the bad cop. And how the Overton window shifts as Nick puts out the message, maybe the bad cop and the good cop will start to be closer and closer together over time. Time will only tell. But just wanted to give you guys an update of another real life experience of the various tactics they use for anybody out there publicly doing this work, putting their own money and reputation behind this. It's just always something, you guys. Every single day you wake up, your post was removed. You got another strike on your account. Your whole fucking website was deleted. It's never ending with these people, man. Never is. But we're working to mitigate the damage. I'll work on getting the store back online. As I said, the website, beholdenthetruth.com, is back online. That took 3 or 4 hours of work this morning. Looks different now, different host and everything. But in terms of placing orders for the merch, you can see all the merch and you can add it to cart and stuff like that. But the checkout functions aren't currently working. But I will have all of that fixed by the time you see this video. So don't see this and say, oh man, I love the merch, but I can't order anything. No, you can. By the time this is uploaded, I'll have that stuff fixed. I'll go in and spend 5-6 more hours working in the back end, YouTubing stuff, figuring out what needs to be done to fix this problem, to put a Band-Aid on it, until they go and ban me from this host or until they go and do the next thing. But I do appreciate you guys' support. Go to beholdenthetruth.com. Now that everything is repaired, go and get yourself a Save Europa hoodie like this gorgeous piece right here, or an anti-Zog occupation t-shirt, tank top, sleeveless tee, flip-flops, whatever you need. We got it all on beholdenthetruth.com. Despite their best efforts, we will adapt. We will maneuver. We will do whatever we have to do to continue to get the message out there. So you guys' support means a great deal to me. Thank you for liking the content, commenting. We've seen huge engagement lately. I put out a video in 12 hours that has 1,000 views. It's pretty crazy. I'm not used to those numbers. We're actually reaching a pretty decent audience on YouTube. But hey, just like my entire website can get deleted, we all know who owns YouTube/Google. So at any point in time, I'm already expecting to just wake up one day and poof, there goes another monetization opportunity. There goes another platform with a large reach. Same with my Instagram account. Mentally, I've been prepared for these things for a long time. Doesn't make them easy, but we handle them with grace, as the Serenity Prayer tells us. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can. Living life one day at a time, enjoying each moment one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. Taking this fallen world as Jesus did, not as I would have it. Trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and eternally happy with you forever in the next. I say that prayer every single day of my life. That's how I'm able to handle the constant bans, suppressions, demonetization, censorship, personal attacks, career attacks. That's how I get through it. I pray every day. I have the sense of serenity with all of these things, that God's going to sort it all out, so long as I'm just pursuing his will, focusing on what I can control versus I can't. If they ban my website, all right, I'll go find a new host. They demonetize my account, we'll try to figure out something else. They ban the posts, okay, we'll make some different ones. They shut down the whole site, whatever, we'll build a new one. So until next time, you guys, I promise I'll keep working. You guys just keep spreading the message. Like, comment, subscribe. That helps with the algorithm. Until next time, take care of yourselves. America first, and Christ is King.
The few brave men who have actually tried to go out and do something about white genocide or talk about Jewish influence, the Zionist-occupied government, we all know that they get crucified, their careers get destroyed, and so we need to find ways to support each other. One of the ways that I have done that is by creating my Substack, where there are exclusive early access to documentaries, my weekly vlogs, there are ebooks there. There's even an opportunity to set up a one-on-one 30-minute Ask Me Anything if you'd like. All of the proceeds from my Substack, from my YouTube channel, from the merch gets reinvested in the platform. I use that to pay my employees. I use that to buy the equipment that I need, the cameras, the lights, the MacBook, all the books, all of the software, pay for marketing, everything else, but also it protects my literal life. So if you want to help out, please do head on to Substack, get yourself a subscription. Thank you. I appreciate it. America first, and Christ is King.